You're not going to believe this. There's a new federal rule that is penalizing home buyers with good credit. But before we jump into that, make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay on top of all of the latest Huntsville, Alabama real estate news. This new rule is coming at probably the worst timing as home affordability is at an all-time low with higher home prices, higher interest rates. This new rule is actually creating an additional burden for home buyers and is going to price some home buyers out of the marketplace because this rule could actually affect, it looks like 2/3 of the potential market for new home buyers. So this fee was designed to help people with lower credit scores purchase homes and get into home ownership, which is a great thing. The challenge is this is not the way to do that. The way that we can help more people purchase homes is to focus on the supply in this country, focus on energy costs, focus on lowering property taxes, similar to how they are here in Huntsville in the state of Alabama where we have low property taxes. So we need to focus on the things that will actually drive home values lower in terms of affordability for starter homes, being able to create more starter homes that people can afford versus just charging additional fees for 2/3 of the borrowers and lowering the fees for 1/3 of the borrowers, which isn't even going to help with qualification, doesn't help with the overall purchase price for these borrowers at all. So I've heard estimates that this basically tax on having good credit could affect your monthly mortgage payment by about $50 or $60 per month. That's $50 a month, that's $600 a year. That could be $18,000 over a life of a loan, over a 30-year time frame. And again, kind of going back to $50 a month, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when home affordability is at an all-time low and we have home ownership rates at a 50-year low, that $50 a month is actually going to break some first-time home buyers or some would-be home buyers from being able to get into that first home and start to build wealth and equity through home ownership, because home ownership or homeowners have 40 times the net worth of renters, over $255,000 on average for homeowners. And so this $50 a month, this new rule, this new tax for doing the right thing, having good credit, paying your bills on time is actually going to continue to decrease the home ownership rates in this country. The thing that doesn't make sense about all this to me as well is why are we making this new rule that applies just for conventional loans? There are different loan products out there. There's VA, there's FHA, USDA, conventional. Conventional has always been, kind of the product that you lean on for people that have a higher down payment, have higher credit scores, to be able to get the best deal for them. First-time home buyers oftentimes lean more towards the FHA programs because it's a lower down payment. And even now, they've lowered the mortgage insurance premiums on FHA, and the rates are actually typically lower on FHA than they are in conventional. So this conventional is not even the right product typically for these first-time home buyers that this program will probably target. FHA is actually probably a better product in general. So why are we ruining a good product when we have another product that would be better for this type of buyer? As you can imagine, on such a controversial new rule out there, there's been a lot of commentary out there. One of that coming from Jerry Howard, who's the CEO of the National Home Builders Association, said this could decrease home ownership in the middle class. I absolutely agree. We're at a 50-year low for home ownership. Not only is it going to shrink home ownership in the middle class, but it's also going to shrink the middle class in general, because middle class benefits from home ownership. Again, that 40 times net worth for homeowners. And so unfortunately, we're going to see a smaller and smaller middle class as a result of this. Mark Calabria, the former Federal Housing Financing Agency director, said this will ultimately harm both borrowers and financial stability. And I agree with that. It's going to obviously harm borrowers with good credit, and then it's going to potentially harm borrowers with not as good credit, because if this helps them get into a home or a payment that they can't afford, this isn't changing credit behavior. This isn't creating financial education. It's not changing anything but a fee structure. And so if a borrower is getting into a home with a payment that they can't afford, it's definitely not good for them either. So my other big concern with this is what you reward is what you get. Kind of Econ 101 is if we're rewarding people for having worse credit, what do you think we're going to get in this country? Probably more people with worse credit. Instead of 1/3 being below 680, that gap may widen. If I'm sitting there and I've got a score of 695, I'm right there on the edge between having to pay these extra fees. Somebody might think about doing things to worsen their credit to be able to get that lower fee, which is really unfortunate. That's a bad thing for the overall economy. So as we mentioned before, this new program could cost you $18,000 or so over the lifetime of the loan. But I think the big question to be thinking about too is, kind of is what it is. If you decide to rent versus own, that decision of renting could cost you a whole lot more in the long run. The average homeowner has a net worth of over $255,000 in this country versus about $5,500 for a renter. So this is more of like a $250,000 question of owning versus renting. The other thing on the bright side too is we're the only country in the world that has a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And that may not sound like a good thing when you amortize it and you look at the $18,000, but it's a huge deal because if you buy a home in another part of the world and you have to get a 5-year or 7-year ARM or basically balloon payment on that mortgage, let's say you buy in at a 5% rate and you can qualify for that home, but then 5 years down the road, that rate is now 7% and you can no longer afford that payment. You're forced to sell your home and move. Whereas in this country, you have that guarantee that your payment is going to be consistent for principal and interest over that lifetime of the loan, the 30-year payment. So if you're looking to buy or sell, or if you just need advice on your situation, shoot us an email at moving@mattcurtisrealestate.com, and we look forward to providing you with that 5-star level of service.